Hi, everyone. Welcome to SoDA Series Live. I'm Talon Wadsworth, Principal Designer at Adobe. I am your host today. If you're a regular on the tuning into our series here, you'll notice that our two of our main players are missing in action today. Kristen Bell and Tom. Oh my gosh, I just blanked. But Tom Beck, sorry, are missing today. So you get me, and you get this great conversation with Christian Mogensen of Stupid Studio. But we'll get to that in just 1 second. If you're new to joining us here on the series, SoDA Series Live is a collaboration between Adobe and SoDA, the Society of Digital Agencies, where we bring you candid and in-depth discussions with creative leaders from all over the world. My favorite thing to do, really. And our goal on the series is to share with you, our creative community, the many amazing insights and experiences from these design leaders, with the hope that there will be something in there, some little nugget of inspiration that might help you along with your own creative journey. So that's the series. Welcome to it. Like I said, today I'm not normally in this role of kind of like introducing. I usually just do the interviews. So thanks for hanging with me today. And today I'm really excited because we are very fortunate to have Christian Mogensen, Executive Creative Director and Partner from Stupid Studio, an incredible SoDA member agency out of Copenhagen, who approaches solving for client needs by leveraging the power of play. And we're going to deep dive into the role of play into their practice and how it's sort of impacted their work. So Christian, thanks so much for joining us today. Really excited to be speaking with you.
Hey, Talon. Hey, everybody out there.
And secretly, we actually had this discussion going even before we started. So we're already kind of a little warmed up and excited to dive in here and include you all in our conversation. And that's really what we want to do today. So before we dive in, I just want everyone joining us in here in the LinkedIn chat today. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to say hello and tell us where you're viewing from today. And if you later on in the hour, we're actually taking some of your questions. So we actually have a member of the SoDA the Society of Digital Agencies, SoDA, with us today, monitoring the chat, and we'll be taking questions for Christian later in the hour. So great. All right. Well, like I said, I feel like we're already a little warmed up, but let's take a step back here and include everyone else in our conversation, Christian.
Yep.
And first, give us a little introduction. Tell us introduce yourself. Tell us about you and maybe something about your creative journey. How did you come to be where you are today?
Yeah, some journey. I know I look young, but I feel very old. But yeah, thank you so much, Talon, and thank you for having me here. I'm super excited to speak to you today on a topic that I love very, very much, around play and imagination. But I think my journey started a long time ago. I don't have a design background. I don't know if I'm a traditional kind of on the show member on the show here, but I don't have a design.
No, we get all kinds.
Yeah,
the journeys are so diverse. That's what I think is really exciting. So no worries.
Mine was too. Actually, Stupid Studio was founded by Daniel, who is an engineer. So I think that also gives a little bit of diversity. But I've actually studied computer science at the university. So I have a degree in that. I found that I was great at talking. I talked a lot. So I went into sales. So I traveled the world and sold a lot of power supplies and USPs and stuff like that. I was actually in close to you in San Francisco at one point, also setting up the first electric bus over there, where we installed lithium batteries. So that was fun. That was many moons ago. Then I came back to Denmark and I started a small company with a bunch of developers and designers called Psst. And it was the weirdest name ever, PSST. I think we were drunk when we developed that name, but it was super fun. So every time we answered the phone, it's like, it's Christian. And the clients were like, hello, is it? And it kind of stuck, but we ran for a couple of years. And then I actually was fortunate enough to meet Daniel and Stupid Studio. And we merged our two companies. And that is roughly 12 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's where how I ended up in Stupid Studio, and I've been here for almost 12 years now, and
Wow.
having super fun and learning a lot and working with the most fantastic team here of great designers and play designers, which is also a thing here in Denmark. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, and Denmark has a long history of the visual arts and just sort of infused in the culture overall. So I could see where there's a lot of interest in design, visual design, and play in the culture kind of writ large.
I'm coming to you live here from Odense, actually, not Copenhagen, but Odense in the middle of Denmark. To those of you who don't know, it's the home of the fairy tale writer Hans Christian Andersen. So it's it's always it's a playful city also. So for sure that fits the studio. Yeah.
Nice. Well. I mean, you went from psst to stupid, and there is something in there and standing out a little bit, right? Yeah. I mean, you do as a we had talked about that previously. This need to sort of almost like design yourself, like as a design agency, like tell your story. So tell us a little bit about the kind of work that you do at Stupid Studio, and then we're going to dig into some of the things that I think find really fascinating about your practice. But give us a little bit of background, like what kind of work do you do at Stupid Studio? What's kind of your bread and butter there at the studio?
I would say that we have developed a lot over time. Stupid Studio was founded in 2006. I joined in 2012. We started out being more of a kind of a, I don't know if production agency is the right word, but Daniel who founded Stupid Studio, came from a huge TV station here in Denmark called TV2 and had worked as head of design there, and so TV2 was naturally the first client in Stupid, setting that up. If we have time, we can get back to why he chose to call it Stupid. That's maybe also interesting. Otherwise, we'll grab that under the questions. But we started out creating a lot of motion design, a lot of animation, a lot of that stuff. So for TV shows and series and so on TV, and then slowly transition into web, starting to do a lot of digital design, a lot of web design, and a lot of digital experience design. And then slowly we found ourselves at a kind of a crossroad where we felt that we needed to kind of challenge the clients more. We were always handed a brief, like stating what a client would need, and we would always find ourselves in this situation of questioning a little bit, but yeah, we could build this for you, but is that really? And I think we all the designers, like we felt that, like, is that really the right thing? Should we start over a little bit and look into it? So more and more we found ourselves in that space where we wanted to move up to the front seat of the bus, so to speak, and be in early or much early in the design process, also even creating the strategies perhaps. So more and more over time that developed. So today it's very much, we still do a lot of communication, like building core narratives and strategies and so on. We do a lot of brand design. I think that's always stuck with us. We know the crafts and the arts of brand design, but more and more over time also we discovered the power of play, and today we have a lot of play designers here. Play facilitation is also a big part. So facilitating workshops, facilitating different experiences, working with clients, and setting up the kind of like future scenarios, having people step into it, kind of challenging where are we heading, not only from a brand perspective, but also maybe from more of a company kind of product perspective. So we build a lot of world building today. We create a lot of scenarios. We challenge our clients. We use play to kind of be the lever of a tool for change, so to speak, to kind of get people to open up. We find it to be super interesting working with play in the sense of being more creative, but we can maybe get back to that and talk to that a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do a lot of different work, but it's all based in communication and brand design and experiences, really.
I always find that fascinating. I always think about it like it's like this meta design challenge, sort of designing your own practice, sort of over time, really defining, what you want to do, and then trying to go out there and convince clients that this is the things that we can do, or more than what we might have done in the past. And so I always find that such a sort of fascinating sort of evolution, as it were. And what are some of the things that what can you maybe think of a moment where you thought where it really was this sort of like moment in time where you said, well, we could be offering something else. We could be we could be designing in these different ways. We could be offering up these other services. Can you think of like one of those like pivotal moments? And again, I think the thing about the evolution, right, is that they're always coming. They're always sort of out there for you to continue to grow and develop. But is there one that sort of sticks out for you?
I think there are two, if I may. Cut me off if I speak too much. But I think one of them was actually very early. I think must have been 1 year in working with Stupid Studio. We worked with Greenpeace on a big project to I think we call it support sustainable fishermen, and it was really a chance where like every 10 years in the EU, the fishery law comes up for review, and really Greenpeace Europe wanted to put focus on the need to create a tighter legislation and to take some of the big trawlers, like these big vessels that really just destroys the ocean and overfish the ocean, to take them out and to focus more on the sustainable fishery and fishermen. And we created a whole campaign for that. We had the Rainbow Warrior, their big ship kind of sail around in Europe to all harbors. We had a lot of different things. It's a huge campaign. It was far the biggest that we've done at that point. We created cool visuals and a brand identity for that. And in the end, we actually managed to change the law together, all of us. I'm sure I can't take credit, but it was the first thing where I really thought, okay, this design can really change stuff. Like we can really do something with design. It is not just a beautiful logo or a funny video. It's actually something that can change things. And I think that was 10 years ago maybe. And I think that really started, for me at least, that drive of trying to kind of say, okay, we can do more with design than just build brands and so on. And I think the second one is what happened 5 years ago. And that was the first time that we really challenged one of our bigger clients, Lego, with working with Play. Of course, they're a Play company. They're a toy manufacturer, the largest toy manufacturer in the world. So we also thought, how can we challenge them with Play design? Like they should be the world masters in Play design. But we managed to build a fantastic experience for their leadership team to make them reflect on certain future aspects and so on. And that was really the second time where I felt, okay, Play really has the power to also change people's minds and make people reflect on the right things. And I think combining those two is also why we're, for example, B-corp certified today. We can maybe talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. Yeah.
But it's really focusing on changing stuff with what we do to have a positive impact on people.
Yeah.
There's some sound.
I mean,
there's some music.
What's that?
It's not me playing. All right.
Oh, I actually think I do. It's actually me. I secretly have a record playing in the background, and I thought it maybe it's a little too loud. My bad. I wasn't sure it was going to pick that up. I'm so sorry. I will turn that down. I was listening to a little Miles Davis this morning. Yeah. This is my now playing shelf back here. So for any of the regulars who tune in, you'll see it.
Crank it up during the Q&A, and cool.
There we go. We'll jam out. I bring it up because I think that's one of the things that, especially when maybe you're just starting in your career, I really wanted to highlight this sort of the self-reflection can really lead to change. That there are these opportunities, and are you sort of stepping back and looking at what you're doing or what you may have done with a client in the past, and not really being held back by how other studios are working, or how maybe you did something or you might perceive something, but there is this kind of evolution or reinvention that is always possible. Like as you grow and develop in your career, that new opportunities will continue to present themselves, and how you're approaching that and how you're taking advantage of that, I think is a really important aspect of growing a design practice over time. And so it really usually comes from those kind of formative moments.
Yeah.
Design can be a force for good. Design can have an impact. I think it's easy for us to get pretty cynical, working in the consumerist capitalist space that a lot of designers sort of find themselves in, especially in agencies.
Sure.
Right. And so, I appreciate you kind of digging into those moments, because again, like, I think it's one of those ones that those stories, don't get told from that angle, right? Like, here's the result, but not how did the result change us and how we work, and the type of work we want to be doing, or the type of work we don't want to do. I think these are always really, really key moments to highlight. So I appreciate you digging into that.
Cool.
But we reference play a lot, but let's define play. You mentioned play. You referenced play designers. Define play for us. Talk about what play means to you and to your practice.
Yeah. Let me start with what it means to us. I think defining play is there's a lot of things that goes into that. But so let me start what it means to us, right? Because I think we're in the creative business, and I think we're all creatives, but I think we get excited about different things and so on. And I think if we could agree on that the most important thing in design, or one of the most important ingredients, I would say, is creativity, right? We can agree on that, and maybe we can also agree on that if we have fun, we tend to do or we tend to be more creative. And I think play for us is a way to also have fun and to add a little bit of not taking ourselves too seriously. And I think that helps to kind of unlock. We enjoy the work more than we do. We're able to design better and more playful products when we use play, and when we not take ourselves too serious. And we have this sentence where we say we have a playful approach to problem solving. So we really use play. It's not that all that, and I say that to all new designers joining us. It's not that we have a playful approach to have a playful output. I don't think the output should always be playful or play, but we've kind of developed some tools and a framework for how to kind of apply it in a process where we can be playful, where we feel that it's a beneficial tool for us to be better at exploring certain things, be better at prototyping, be better at working together, be better at exploring different things. So I think in that sense, play is a tool for us, and something that we use. And play in itself, if you try and define it, there's play for children, and then there is play for adults, and it's not necessarily the same thing. And the same thing, like play is not necessarily the same thing for you, Talon, as it is for me. And I think that's where it sometimes get a little bit tricky talking about plays, because for play for children, for example, children don't really think about playing. For them, it's the way that they learn.
Just the way it is.
It's the way it is. Yeah. We play to learn. Really, that's the way we discover. We're curious. We learn about certain things. We learn language. We learn to walk. That's by playing our way. And I think children are good at it because they don't know better in the sense there's not an expected outcome of it. Play is just play for the sake of play. And I think once we get older, we kind of lose that a little bit, because we want to have an expected outcome. It has to have meaning. It has to. Time is valuable, right? And I think it's one of the most valuable times that we have, or things that we have. And play means it requires you to give it time. It requires to dedicate time to it, because it takes time to play, and that's why it's sometimes hard for people to engage fully in it, I think. But I found that when we use play, it really positively influenced the process of also very highly innovative companies that we work with. I think it creating a sense of humor and not taking things too seriously allows all the members of an organization to contribute and to be less afraid of developing ideas. So I think for me, at least, what I've come to notice and experience is that play can help us be more creative, because it opens up some different centers than just saying, hey, we need to be creative, go be creative. Yeah, but how? And I think that how for us is play. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking, of course, when we first met, but also kind of leading into our conversation today about the need to be creative, to sort of tap into those creative energies. Like, you need to create deliberate space. You need to say, especially now when we're so bombarded with things that are, taking that time away from us or asking us for our time, that it is kind of radical in a way to be like, no, we're going to create this space, or we're going to create this process so that people feel like they can take that time, like they can step back and have a space where they can play, both to fail, to see what doesn't work, but also to find new opportunities and new ideas that may have been closed off because we've got a deadline, we've got to answer these emails and then these emails, and we're constantly sort of switching, task switching. But I find it quite, again, kind of refreshing and radical to say, no, we're gonna name this process, we're gonna give it a proper name, so that we can ensure or at least create the opportunity for that space, for that time to be taken, to be spent exploring and to defining what the solution might be.
Yeah, I agree. We talk a lot about it here also. What is it that is interesting with play? What does it mean for us? We also challenge Lego a lot on what is play. We work with the Lego Foundation on learning through play, which is their way of also looking at what play can do in an educational setting, from a child perspective. And I think there's a lot of different things. I think sometimes when we talk about play, play is also in the word Lego. In Danish, it's called lege godt, so it's play well, really. So it's also in, and not a lot of people know that, actually, but it is Danish.
I didn't know that. No, yeah.
But sometimes I think when we grow up, we get a little bit afraid of play. So we also use the connotation playful or playfulness. And I think there's a little bit of difference, at least the way that we approach it. So play for us is an activity. It's a thing that we do. It could be an activity we do during a workshop, an energizer, or an icebreaker. We have many names for these things. We created a whole framework called Sensible Futures with a bunch of cards and things where you can kind of deep dive into different things when exploring future settings, and all kind of playful elements, with a playful element. I think so. But play is an activity, and whereas playfulness is more of an attitude. It's the way you kind of meet the world. And I'm open. It's an attitude. I have a playful approach to these things. And it at least it helps us to kind of view the world in a little bit of a different way. And it creates an atmosphere also. Like, I think that's the amazing thing with play. It can create an atmosphere that encourages creative behavior. And I think that's the interesting thing. Yeah.
That is really interesting. I mean, so again, we talked about that moment, those moments of reinvention, in a way, that sort of designing your practice and then communicating that outwards. So, like, how has the client response been? I mean, you've referenced Lego, which of course has play in its DNA, as you pointed out. But what have been the challenges in communicating the approach and sort of like pitching the approach? And then then sort of second part of that question, which is how has it changed the client and how they were engaged with the process? So yeah, maybe we take that as a two-parter. Like, what have been some of the challenges with clients, and then how has it changed them? What have you found on the other side when working with those clients, or what have they found? What have they found in the process?
I think Stupid Studio have always, and maybe it's the name, maybe it's Daniel who founded Stupid in his nature, but it's really, I think we've always been playful, but we didn't call it play, or we didn't have a word or vocabulary for it and a language for it until we met a couple of play designers that we hired, which are kind of the first batch from a design school here in Denmark that has a master's degree in play. They kind of came to us, hey, it's what you're doing is really play. And so they gave us a language for it, and I'm forever in debt to Nisha and Rebecca for giving us the language for that, because I think it opened my eyes also to what it is that we could do with these things. And I think but I've also been in the situations where I met people that look at the word play or hear that hey, we have to play in the meeting and feel that it's a boundary that they have to like it really requires something. I remember we've sat in a boardroom of all white men in suits, and we brought in our Lego serious play boxes and said, hey, now we're going to build with Lego and we're going to have fun. And they were like, no, we are not. And I think the way to kind of go about it is you have to kind of, sometimes you have to kind of get it in the back door and kind of ease it in. Because the funny thing is that after an hour where we challenged these guys to sit and build with Lego, they saw how powerful it is. Because if I just ask you, Talent, to, hey, tell me something about yourself, it will be the elevator pitch, the same thing you always say. It's probably, I know you might do better, but a normal person. But for example, working with a product like Lego, they could kind of build themselves and they could kind of project it, saying it's not really me. I'm talking about this figure that does these things, and it becomes a much more interesting conversation. And I think that is what it opens up. And I think that they saw that, and right away they were engaged. They just needed to get past that first threshold, right? But we've been in many situations where we had to walk the client through why it's important to do these things, and some have said no, some have understood why, and some have just said, hey, I trust you guys, we'll go with it and we'll have fun. I think more and more over time we've built a way to approach it now, and we've built a big video library, for example, of to show them this is what it looks like when we play, this is what we get out of it. Clients, customers, like kind of testimonials and stuff like that always helps a client to, okay, I trust you. This is if Adidas says this, or if Lego says this, if IKEA says this, okay, then we can trust you.
And we can trust it now.
So we are very much looking for those kind of that feedback, and we always try to do videos whenever we play with clients and so on, so that we can show what it looks like and what you can actually get out of it. But yeah, there are pushbacks sometimes, and there are definitely also people that don't understand it. There's also I think there's also something to say around being introverted, extroverted. There is something around play where we also have to be careful on where we bring it in and how much we dial it up and down and so on. But luckily, play can do that. Like it can be very dialed down, or it can be very dialed up with people that are really engaged and submerged and immersed in it, right?
Yeah. Like I said, like in giving it a language, right? You do have to deal with the way that people interpret it, right? And then you're really trying to, in some cases, maybe subvert their expectations, right? To say, well, this is a word that you might understand this way, but this is what we mean, and this is what the results could look like. And like at the end of the day, as we were sort of mentioning earlier, you're really just trying to create that space, that time to say, we're going to, look at the problems that you have as a company, and we're going to come back with solutions that are going to stretch us, maybe to challenge us a little bit. And we might not end up in an area that is playful, but we are going to end up with a result that we feel like we've taken the right approach, right? And again, everyone out there who's tuning in who might be new to design, right? Like I think one thing that Christian, you probably advocate for as well, through your practices, is developing that process, right? Whatever that process is that allows you to and create the space for creativity, to create the space for play. At the end of the day, you can rely on that process, whatever the result might be. That's something you can rely on and really lean on to build out your kind of professional career, right? And something in developing that and taking that seriously and being self-reflective can lead to to really positive results on the other side, both in yourself and in the clients that you work with.
Yeah. But I think it's important to find that process. I just final comment on that. I think it's just I think what we are all looking for, especially when we're working with strategy or brand design or communications, like we want to get past that auto response kind of feedback from a client. We want to get to the good stuff. We want to get to the stuff that we can design for. And I think whether you call it play or not, or you do other kinds of activities, I think we all in the design will have different activities and stuff that we do in workshops to get past through that through that auto response. That is really just where I feel that the power of play has taught me something that is really both fun and exciting, but it's also very, very useful. And just like one example, just to be concrete, because I think it helps also to be a little bit concrete. One example is just
please
have everybody in a room for a brand workshop and ask, and we for the first brand workshop, we really want everyone from the company in, like, or different people, not only the leadership team or the CEO or whatever. So we want people in there, and one of the first things we ask them to do is to draw their own logo. And the CEO typically will go like, but we hired you to draw a new logo. That's not the point of these things, right? So we have everybody draw their logo, and I don't know if you tried this exercise. It's super fun.
I love it. No, I'm taking notes right now. So.
I give them a bunch of colors, stuff that they can draw with, and then draw the logo. So the interesting thing for us as designers is not what they draw, it's how they present it. Oh, you use the color red. Why? Yeah, because I really feel that we have this warmth, like we focus on people like that. The interesting thing is to get to that kind of stuff, right? Where we get past that auto response. Yeah, we are all about sustainability and we do these. Everybody does that. What is the core of it? That's what we want to get to. And playful activities allows us and it helps us to get to that in a fun way that is also memorable. Not to say. And then I think one last thing is just today we also like play is it's not a new thing, but in our line of work it is a kind of a new thing. I think it's only 5 years ago in Denmark the first play designer was actually asked, and I think so more and more things are coming in, more and more models. Designing for playful tension is one model that we work with in Denmark, where you have kind of like an unruly and an orderly element, and in between is where the playful tension really happens. So for that to happen, it has to have an orderly kind of thing and an unruly kind of element. But we have a lot of different, the 5 characteristics of the holistic skills. So that begins to like come all these models of stuff that is super interesting. And we also today have a lot of research, or more and more research, pointing to that if you have a playful approach and if you use play in your process, whether it's innovation or design or whatever, it tends to boost your well-being. Like you have more fun, you feel more engaged. It definitely boosts the team connectivity. It's much easier to connect when you laugh and when you have fun together. And it also makes you think in new ways, because it allows you to kind of lower your guards and be less afraid of failing. So we also risk something sometimes. You take a risk with something and thinking new ways. So it's a very, very good tool in innovation, I would say also.
Yeah. I mean, I said it earlier, and it's maybe because my design background is not tech. I still, even though I've been here at Adobe now for almost 13 years, like I still don't consider myself part of that design scene. I'm in it, right? But one of the things that I've noticed, and then why I think you can play as a practice, as a clear statement of purpose, is radical, is because I think there has been in the digital era, as we've optimized around data and clicks and attention, and sort of everybody scrambling for those same sort of outcomes. there has been, I think, a tendency for the design industry to adopt the values, of business. That our success really relies on, clear, definable business outcomes, and that's something that I've sensed, as a, quote unquote UX designer or a product designer or designer of these digital experiences, that we have been kind of, optimized into this box, as designers, and that our goals and outcomes should be the same as business goals and outcomes. And I've been a real advocate internally here, for, again, these qualities or these practices or processes that, again, can meet those outcomes for sure, but we get out of that kind of homogenized, optimized, you're reduced to the mean, kind of outcomes, right? And I think that's why, as you're describing play and its role in your practice, and and how it impacts, how you work with clients and work together as a team. That's why it feels a little radical to me in a way. And it's challenging some of that, again, that kind of like status quo that we have been kind of boxed into, and really bringing design back to, I think, the role that we can play, which is really leading, leading the charge when it comes to the types of experiences that can lead us into these new paradigms, or these new form factors, or these new experiences. And so, that's why I really.
But it's interesting because it's back to dedicating time to play. It requires that you dedicate time for it, and we are constantly asked to do more and more as designers with less and less time. So we're streamlining things. We're making things efficient. We are optimizing things, as you say, Tal. And I think that brings a creative deficit. Like I think that makes us less creative, to be honest.
I agree.
It certainly makes us less likely to take a chance on something, because we have to finish it up in due time. So I think one of the things that is threatening right now is that lack of time to also do these things. There is a wonderful book from I don't know if you know the Canadian author Blair Ames. He wrote The Win Without Pitching, Manifesto, which is I love that. He also wrote a piece called The Inefficiency Framework, which is kind of interesting in the sense that innovation and efficiency can really like, how are they related to each other, in the sense that you can have one or you can have both in his opinion. Like, you cannot be very innovative and at the same time be very efficient in your work. It's simply I think it's called an oxymoron, right? It's kind of like it's opposites of each other. And I feel the same way, whether it's innovation or it's creativity. It's hard sometimes to make it more efficient, and to optimize it all the time, because sometimes the best idea comes out of nowhere when you're doing stuff. We all know that cliche kind of thing, but it's true. And I think playing allows our mind to kind of, or to the kind of everyday kind of things that we have to work on to get into the back of the head, and we just immersed in play, and all of a sudden it comes up again and it says, hey, this could be the way to go. We have this thing with Lego. Play is the brain's favorite way to learn. So really, that's I think there's something there that at least for me is the truth.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole other road I could take us down because I think about like the rage in sort of AI and the generative space right now, and I think the hold that it has over us really comes down to this promise of this kind of efficiency. That we are strapped for time, and we are not given the opportunity to search for those new connections. And so here's the promise of this thing that can streamline, or that can optimize, that can take what's come before and generate something like that. But maybe we'll save that for a different conversation, Christian, because I'm sure we can totally go down that route. But I wanted to touch on something here, which resonated with me when we were talking, and I was prepping sort of our first kind of conversation. I went to the Stupid Studio site, as you do, and right there, big and bold, the Stupid Studio Manifesto. And this resonated with me because when I was a second year student at California College of the Arts, where I still work just across the street from, one of my mentors, my professor, later my boss, he had us write our design manifesto, and it was probably one of the most valuable things that I had ever done up to that point, and still one of the most valuable things I do, and I revisit it all the time, where I clearly state what am I about when it comes to design and creativity. Like, what do I want to? How do I want to be in the world in that way? And I always give the advice to any up and coming designer to write their manifesto, to declare, for themselves and hopefully maybe for other people, what they're all about. And so, tell us a little bit about the manifesto, how it came to be, and the role that it plays for you all there at Stupid Studio.
Actually, if maybe I'm wrong, but I actually think that the idea of the manifest was actually something that came before I started. I think it was already there in some sense and form from Daniel and the past team, and the previous team. I think, but so I think over time, the content of, we call it the incomplete design, the incomplete manifest, right? And I think so really it's our way to kind of talk about how we think, really. And the content has changed over time, some of it at least, but the values have always stuck. That's the DNA, the core culture, the DNA of Stupid Studio is in there and has always been in there, even though some of the headlines or the concept has changed over time. But I really think it's for us at least, it's a good way to show potential clients and potential new colleagues, people interested in looking for work, or like how we think. And I think it's more valuable than just saying a value. We are curious, but what does it mean? Like what is the thinking behind it? So I think the manifest for us is a way to kind of talk about that and let people know what we think and how we work, and the kind of ideas we have and what you could expect. And I think we've talked about this many times. We find it very valuable. I'm sure that it scares away some clients, but maybe it's only a good thing. It definitely also attracts others. And I think I hear from a lot of people that are looking for work that what's in there really resonates with them also. I think the idea of the manifest came from Jason Fried, who is the CEO of 37 Signals. They have a wonderful manifest in there of 37 different signals. And he also have been writing on that for a long time, Jason Fried, and 37 Signals built Basecamp and Hey and so on, so that people know. But go in and check out their manifest. I love that. And we found a lot of inspiration in that way of speaking. So today we have stuff in our manifest. You can go in and check it out. But stuff like always bring perspective and why that's important. We talked about the consume art. It's very important to us as a way to also learn new things. Of course, we have one point in there around staying stupid, which is kind of like, like to be old and wise, you must first be young and stupid. I think it allows us to ask the stupid questions, not be afraid of being a little bit silly, not taking ourselves too serious and so on, because that really helps in the way that we work. Humans will find a way. It's also a thing, like we believe in the positive. It's so easy to become like doomy and gloomy with all the stuff going on in the world, especially when we build futures. But it's not going to be a positive future if we only look at the bad stuff. Of course, we won't ignore it, but we want a positive future. So we also look at the positives of these things. And number one in there is use business as a force for good, which comes from our B-corp certification, which is very important to us also, and is a way of measuring how the impact that we are actually creating with the projects that we choose to engage in.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the B Corp thing again. Again, it was sort of on our list to get to, even though we're sort of running out of time. But maybe just to define that just a little bit, make sure everyone in the audience understands kind of like where that comes from and like what that's really all about, and what that, again, how that again kind of guides the future of the company, that B Corp status.
I think the whole world is talking about these ESGs right now. Like especially in Europe, it's a big thing of the what's your environmental footprint, what's your social footprint, how do you do governance in your workplace, and so on. So I think these ESGs are coming like more and more as a after CSR and so on is kind of the next big thing, and something that is very important also. We just found that we were lacking a framework to also keep us engaged and keep us it's not just a one-off, but something that where we can keep working. And we found that in the B-corp certification process, which originally comes from Patagonia, and I think the idea with B-corp, not getting too much into it, is that you go through like 800 different questions of different things. You have 5 categories that you look for: governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. Those are the kind of 5 main things that you look into, and you have a bunch of questions beneath that, and then you get a score in the end. And if it's more than 80, you can get up to 200. If it's more than 80, you can become a B Corp certified company. But the idea is then that you have to recertify in 3 years. So you cannot just lean back and say, "Hey, we got this covered." It constantly gets harder and harder to be recertified, and you want to push to get up towards the 200. I think we scored just below 100, which qualified us to be B Corp certified. And it's a way for us to work day to day also on how do we look at the kind of clients that come in? How do we estimate if the impact that they do is something that we can work with? Or so really, it's a screening process for us. It's a way of working. It's a way of becoming better to look at how we do governance, how we become more professional in working with all our colleagues in developing their futures and so on. And really, it came from an idea that Daniel wrote in 2021, which was the Stupid Studio 100-year plan, which was kind of like in the middle of the pandemic, and everybody was like, feeling it. We were kind of like, he wrote the 100-year plan of like, where is this going? Where do we want to take our business? What should Stupid look like in 100 years from now? Which kind of started the idea of, okay, is Stupid actually here? Just in 50 years, we're not here, which is scary enough to kind of say, right? But what about 100 years? Is Stupid still here? Yeah, we want it to be here. So what do we want to do to make sure that it will be here for the next generation, and that we continue to do impactful, good work that has a positive impact in the world that we want to be part of.
No, I love that. Again, I'm such a huge advocate. I think of really having that the self-reflection to be able to look at the work that you're doing and define it, and define kind of how you want to be in the world and how you want to move through it and the impact that you want to have, and whether your horizon is 5 years or 20 years or 100 years, that can kind of shore you up in the face of all this change and all this turn, and things will constantly continue to move around you. But if you can kind of state that for yourself and be self-reflective and continue to come back to that as that kind of guiding sort of light or that foundation, that at least you have the confidence to kind of move forward. And it also
means we can go from intent to action, right? So it's not just something we talk about. It's actually it's a framework. It's something that we actually do, and everybody in the company is involved in it, which I love.
I love that. Everybody out there, take note. Crib some notes here from our conversation. Go check out Stupid Studio and their work. Unfortunately, I think Lakai mentioned in the chat, they ran into a problem with LinkedIn's public chat today. Everyone, if you have questions, we're so sorry. We really wanted to get to them. If not, you can hit us up in the usual places, at Mr. Talon and Christian. I don't know if you're out there on the socials, but always feel free to hit us up afterwards.
Yes.
We're happy to answer questions. One thing I want to end us on today, and I think it goes back to kind of creating that space, for all of us. Like, what's keeping you inspired right now? What's the thing that you are kind of going to today Again, that thing that keeps you excited and interested in the world.
That's a big topic. I don't think we have time for that, but I'm a vivid sci-fi nerd. I love my sci-fi books, and I find a lot of inspiration in reading sci-fi. So whether it's Dune, or it's more kind of newer stuff, or it's 1984, whatever it is, I always find a lot of inspiration in reading books, and especially around sci-fi. I love reading stuff like Douglas Coupland. I love his stuff. I don't know if you know some of his quote with "I miss my pre-internet brain" and stuff like that. Those kind of minor things we just talked about earlier today. The Rick Rubin book also, and I think that stuff like that is I love reading because it allows me to kind of be a little bit bored, or be a little bit like submerged in something where it's not screens all the time. That's and it's so difficult today to not to get that to that space where you can be a little bit bored and have your mind think about new stuff, because we're always presented with a new option on Netflix or a new thing of entertainment and so on. So everything books is definitely
everyone go listen to the Ezra Klein podcast from the New York Times. The most recent episode is actually about the benefits of deep reading and its impact on our brain. So great sort of synergistic topic there. And go read the original Dune if you haven't, by Frank Herbert. I reread it recently ahead of the movie. So even if you've seen the movie, go read the book. There's so much in there to take inspiration from. So great recommendations there, Christian. Thank you all today. Christian, thank you so much. Again, I could continue to chat with you forever. Hopefully we get the chance to do so again soon. And thanks for everybody for joining us today. We'll be back next month with another edition of the SoDA Series Live. And appreciate your time today, Christian. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, guys.
Yeah.